Okay, so I'm gonna start with just maybe, I guess, from the beginning. Tell me how it started, when you started noticing, or just your story, because I know for you it started pretty early.
So, for me, it started in my childhood home. I lived there probably at least like, I don't know. I can't remember what age, but I think maybe sometime in middle school was when I left. Just because like the things got hard financially, but you know, it's good that that happened because of the stuff. But I remember early on when we moved there, we didn't have like I didn't see like anything weird that like out of the blue right away. But I remember like one time randomly, my mom, came up to me, and I'm assuming she probably did the same for my brother, and then later on my sister. But she had like told us that if we ever saw something like out of the blue or that was like kind of unexplainable, something weird like maybe a door was open that you remember closing, she was like, oh, it's probably just like that you forgot, like don't get scared, like it's not anything, and at the time I didn't think it was anything, like I was like, wonder why she said that. I guess like I figured as much because like my first, I don't think anybody's first inclination is just to think that there's ghosts, right? But I would remember seeing stuff that I would usually just brush off because I thought maybe it was like like she said, wasn't a big deal, and like it wasn't like anything that was like scary,
Right.
like in the movies. Like for example, I remember in my room the closet light would always sometimes be on, well, always sometimes, but like in the night, like when I'd wake up in the morning, I'd notice that it was on, and I'm like, I don't remember turning that on, and it's like simple stuff like that that isn't necessarily something scary because I could have actually forgotten,
Right.
Right. But this would happen all the time, and there would be some days where I was like, I know I didn't turn this on, like I didn't even go in there, and then also something I remember is that my closet was always really cold no matter what. Like it could have been hot outside, and my parents, when I would ask my parents about it, they would just say, oh, that it's probably the insulation or something. And I figured that made sense because they didn't react to it. But later thinking about like how spirits can, when they are in a certain area, can affect the environment, I maybe thought later on that could be something. Like the layout of my house was it was a 2-story house, and you'd go in at the front, and there was like a wraparound wall, and then on the other side of that wall was the kitchen, and then on the other side, so it was kind of like a U basically.
Okay.
And the front side was like a living room, like play area, and then on the other side was the actual living room, or what we used for the living room. And then there was stairs. Underneath the stairs was a basement, a bathroom, and like a computer room. And then up the stairs, brother's room, my room, and master's room. But the layout was weird because the stairs were right up, like right under, like the attic was right above the stairs. And that was right outside my brother's room. So he used to not feel very comfortable because he's like,
yeah.
I'm literally right by all of the like spots where something could get me from. The stairs, the attic. And then so the master, now that you know the layout, there was always this like creaking sound, like if someone was walking up there, but it was like walking hard, like like
Stomping
yeah,
almost?
like kind of like when you hear like old wood, like when someone's stepping on wood, you'll hear like creaking, or even like kind of not snapping, but kind of like, yeah, like the sounds like the walls are kind of snapping on the inside. And we would hear this all the time, sometimes even during the day.
Oh wow.
And I just thought it was like house noise. Like that's what our parents would say. It was like maybe it was like old house creaking. But come to think of it, they had that house built on that neighborhood. Like I mean, I was only there probably a little over 10 years, maybe 12, 13 years, something like that. So it's like that's not old enough really to be creaking like that. And I
It's the
didn't
old
think
house
about it.
excuse.
Well, and it's not even, it wasn't even just like, it wasn't all over the house. It was just in the master. So it's like, why is it always here that I hear this? And along with the creaking, sometimes I would hear this loud bang on the wall, like if someone was just to smack the wall with like their arm. And it would just happen throughout the day, like a couple times at random. Like to the point where, like a plane flying overhead, you just tune it out. Or you're just like, I'm watching TV, don't even budge, because I don't think it's like an issue. So, back again, like I said, it's like all these things are definitely weird, like finding doors open, or I remember the laundry room, which was like adjacent from my room, like 2 doors down, because it was like bathroom and then laundry room, would always, like, I'd literally remember one time I closed the door because I saw it cracked open, like if someone was hiding, peeking. I closed the door, and as soon as I close it and I make sure it clicks, it like literally opens again to that same space. Like while I'm standing there, I'm like, maybe the door's not working. It's just like,
the latch,
exactly.
The latch is not good.
And so it's just like, I would always try to rationalize it. And I think part of it, I think these kind of things happen in everybody's life, and that's why they're like, most people wouldn't think that that's anything.
Yeah.
But the thing is that, like, when something paranormal happens, it's not like in the movies. I always hear people say, how do you, they're so stupid, why don't they run away or whatever? And it's just like, or why don't they move out of the house? But it's like, financial situations, but also it's not always like stuff happening back to back every day. Like sometimes you might have spaces or gaps where you don't have anything weird and it's just normal house. And then other times you'll have these weird things happen, but overall they're not like threatening to me. They're just like things happening, and I think that we can coexist with these things, The problem though is that, who would want to do that? It's just creepy. Like knowing that like there might be something weird going on. Especially like I come back from a religious, always had like been Christian. So it's like, I don't see it as like something that's not believable, And, that kind of stuff happens all the time, but I noticed that, as I got older, like more stuff would happen, or maybe I just became more aware of the fact that it was weird. And I noticed that I had a lot more bad dreams at the time, and specifically I remember I would have bad dreams a lot of times with a like a little blonde girl. Now this is where like the horror parts come in, because it's like you wake up and you're just like, what the heck was that, right? Like it felt so real. Like I remember every detail of this story, or of this dream rather. Like I woke up and it was like 8 a.m. and at the time when I was younger I used to wake up like that early on weekends, just because like I guess like I don't know, I just didn't need more sleep, or just I would try to play a little bit on my DS before my parents woke up, right? And so I wake up, but all the windows are open, and like it's like really quiet outside. All I can hear is like wind chimes and like wind, like for whatever reason super windy, but all the windows are open in the house. Like the one in my room's open, my door's open, which is already weird in itself. And then I walk out and I'm like calling out for my mom, and I like look like it's super quiet, but the part that in the dream made me start feeling weird was the fact that like all the windows in the house were open, like even the ones on the 2-story part up top that I can't, like nobody can get to. And like there's like all the doors are open, like the front door's open, there's like leaves coming in, and I'm like, what the heck? And I look and there's nobody in the master, and then I look at my brother's room and I walk up to it, and like same thing there, open window, nobody there. And I'm like, where the heck is everybody? Like, did they go somewhere? Why would they, like, what happened with all these, like, even in the dream, I didn't even necessarily think it was anything, like, scary right off the bat. I was just like, who did all this? Because now I'm going to have to close all this. Or how do you even, like, when they get back, what are they going to say, right? So then I go downstairs, and, I'm, like, looking out on the front door. And then all of a sudden I look on the living room side, which was to the right of the stairs, because I hear creaking, and I look out and there's like some random little girl in a rocking chair in my backyard. And so, like, even though that's weird in itself, in my dream, I was like, who the heck are you? Why are you on my property? Like, did you do all this? And so I walk up to the living room, and I say, hey, who are you? Like, what are you doing? And, like, she's, like, rocking, and then all of a sudden she turns and looks at me, and, like, all I remember was, like, her not having any face. Like, it was just, like, she had, like, a blonde hair and a white little dress with red dots, and, like, a little red, like, ribbon thing. But she, and it was, like, short blonde hair, like, maybe no longer than shoulder length. And she turns and looks at me, but there's no, like recognizable facial features. Like, it almost even looked flat. Like, there was, like, when I try to remember, it's like there was no, like, sunken in holes where eyes should have been. It wasn't, like, scary like that. It was just alarming, like because I see this, and, you know, it was almost like a jump scare because she, like, turned around, and I was, like, not expecting that. And then I woke up, and it was exactly 8, like, it looked just like in the dream, and it was windy outside, but the windows were closed. And I'm a little scared because I'm like, is this real, or is this, like, was that dream? Like, what the heck happened? Yeah. And then I, like, get quiet, and I can hear my parents, like, snoring or sleeping or whatever. And I'm like, and then I was like, well, time to go back to sleep, you know? So, like, it was, like, no big deal. But, you know, I haven't had, like, really dreams like that. Mm-hmm. You know, I didn't get dreams like that very often. I never really had, like, that many nightmares, you know?
Have you seen Princess Mononoke?
I don't think I have.
No. There's this one scene that reminded me, just kind of a funny input. You see this deer throughout the beginning of the movie, and you never see its face until later, and literally it is the complete opposite of what you would expect for the face to look like.
Is this supposed to be, like, comical?
No, this is like Studio Ghibli is one of those films.
Oh, it was one of those animated ones, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And it like, my friend, when she saw it, she's like, that shit fucked me up.
Was
like,
it scary?
No, I mean, it's a little bit, like,
jarring.
Yeah, because you're just like,
yeah.
You know, you're expecting a deer face, and then you see that. So it's kind of, that reminded me of when you said that you were like, well, it was like kind of a jump scare.
Yeah.
But sorry, didn't mean to.
No, that's fine. That's funny. You know, by the time I was like 10, we had, my mom had my sister. And so, you know, by this time, like, we're about to leave, like, I'm maybe 13 and she's like 3 years old. And, she's still sleeping in a crib beside my parents' house. And, like, this is like where things start getting a little more intense. Like, although I will say, like, in general, the house's energy, like, I remember, like, when we would watch movies in the living room, I used to feel, like, really uncomfortable. Like, sometimes you get this really deep, like, instinctual gut feeling, like, when you see something that is, like, beyond explanation. And honestly, I think you should trust that feeling, because we have it for a reason. Like, sure. It's coming from, like, you know, it's like being triggered when you don't feel safe, and when that happens, like, you should trust that impulse, because, like, you don't feel like that normally.
Yeah, it's our natural instinct. Like, we, at the end of the day, we come from animals, so, like, exactly. They have that, like, something's not right.
Well, if you think, like, in the like, when we were primal people, yeah, I was watching this show Primal, actually, recently. It's like an Adult Swim, like, cartoon, but this guy, he's like a caveman, and he has his dinosaur, and you know, like, there was this moment that they, like, conveyed this, like, fear on him, and, like, he's always, like, alert, like, able to hear things and, like, turn around fast, and it just makes you think, like, you know, we were programmed with those because we were hunted too, you know, so it's like, you know, and you didn't always get to eat, and we were just, I think we were a lot more in tune with our senses in those times. But
real quickly, have you ever heard that the fact that animals in the wild do not get, like, anything that looks similar to them, they'll just kind of assume that, like, oh, they're just part of the pack or whatever, but we're the only, I guess, animal in that sense that is afraid of anything that looks similar to us and isn't. So scientifically, they believe that in the past, something that looked like us but wasn't us would like hunt us or something like that, and which is why we have that fear of like, whoa, that looks like a human but it's not, you know. And so
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever heard
No, no, I have. I actually, so I love horror movies despite the fact all this stuff happens. But, and I believe in all those like well, I'm not going to say it, but, you know, like mimics and, you know, aliens, even Bigfoot. Like, I mean, I think it's very possible. How else would anybody get these stories? You know, like you think like natives or even like biblical stuff talks about demons. Like this is like way beyond our time. Like something has to be out there, and no matter what religion you are, everybody believes in some sort of higher power or some sort of destination. Like even if you're atheist and you don't know something, like you still feel like you're just like put here. Like you got to think deeper, like why though? Like why is everything work a certain way? Why do so many people believe in a similar type of God? Even if it's a different religion, it's still the same kind of foundational morals and like a tale of someone who was, you know, like, you know, just I don't know the word I'm trying to say, but just beyond good, like way too good for like a person, you know? And, you know, and if it's not, you know, angels and demons, then like, is it aliens? I don't know. We always think that there's more out there, you know? And, you know, I think, what I love about horror stuff is exactly what you said. Like, it plays on an instinctual fear that we have of something trying to, you know, something that looks like us that's not. And, you know, you see this done a lot. Like, that's why people have mannequin phobias. The mannequin phobia is coming from the fact that it's humanoid and it looks like us, but it's eerie because it's inanimate. And like, and you know, that in itself is scary to think about, you know? And going back to like that feeling is like, you know, there's like a point beyond rationality where that triggers it. Like, I like to think I'm a pretty rational person. You know, when I see something, it's not like my mind goes straight to ghosts. You know, like even if I saw like, even if this glass right here fell off and shattered, and like even though it's not close to the edge, my first inkling, unless it came launching at me, my first inkling wouldn't be, oh, there's definitely a ghost there. Yeah. You know what I mean?
It actually has fallen, but that's my bad because that shit weighs like over 20 pounds and I had it up with one thumbtack.
So like I think there's a lot of like energy just in the house in general, like whatever kind of energy, I don't know, but I remember, you know, just the other side of the living room, like the front end spot, especially like when I was downstairs to go to the bathroom, it was like in this dark corner, and like that whole area was dark, and I swear to God, the darkness that was in that section was darker than any darkness I've ever seen. Like, I don't know how to explain. It was like blacker than black. Like when I go, it felt like a void.
And I've heard people say that, like,
when you like almost can see things moving, like you know, almost like, you know, the light fuzzies you see. It's like almost like that, but you almost feel like you can see things moving inside, and you know, like almost like a color burn type of thing. Like, I know you could get that just staring in the darkness, but like seeing, like, I feel like I'm like seeing other things around me, you know what I mean? And so I would, like, you know, to try to not seem scared because for whatever reason my dad would like not necessarily, like, I don't want to say get mad, but he would like kind of react if we were like, you know. So I would literally like, so there was a light on the stairs. No, that's not the one I turned on. There was like on the bar part of the kitchen, right across from the garage. I would go and like turn on the light there, and then quickly walk around the corner and turn on the light, I think on the stairs, so I had some light, and then go and use the bathroom. But you know, and then actually no, I wouldn't even turn on the one on the stairs because I didn't want him to think I was overly scared. So I like would turn on the one in the kitchen, but that wouldn't give me enough light on the other side. And so I would just kind of like go, and so it was kind of like the Harry Potter stairs where it like went up and then there was a basement door, or it's not a basement but just like a closet, a storage area. So as soon as I turned the corner where I felt like my head was out of like sight, I would book it to the bathroom, and then And then I would I would use it, and it was just such a creepy layout because like say I'm coming out of the bathroom, the to the left was the computer room, and it was just pitch black in there, and then the right side was the not the basement but the like storage room, and then there was just blackness in front of me. And so then, and like, oh my gosh, just I remember the terror every time running back to the living room, like running past the stairs and then walking to act like I'm not scared, and just feeling like something's watching me or something's behind me. And like I would literally go, like I would dread going to the bathroom if I was downstairs. Like during the nighttime, it wouldn't be me. Like I wouldn't be doing that if I had it. Like we were only watching movies, so that's why. But I was lucky upstairs. The bathroom was like right outside my door. But like even then, I didn't like waking up at night and going out. Like even to like now, I try not to wake up and have to use the bathroom overnight. But I remember. And another thing about the structure is in the living room, my parents had designed this like little opening, like a little window on the top of where like the second story like floor would be. Okay. They like would like it was like a play area, like as soon as you go upstairs, brother's room, my room, and then there was like the space, and if you walked in there was a little window so you could look down and look at who's in the living room. And they designed it. Well, they designed it like that so they could see when we were like little if we were getting into any trouble or whatever.
Makes sense.
But that was creepy when we were just in the house alone because like it always felt like someone was watching us from up there. And I never wanted to look up, like it's like what if there is? And even at night, I remember like we later on had like some boxes up there, and like I used to always feel like there was something around the corner behind the boxes, like in the little space where the window was, and it was like at all times of the day, it just always felt like someone was watching, and like honestly, even thinking about it, I used to feel uncomfortable in the bathroom because I would just be in there, no matter what I'm doing, I'm just like, I just feel like this like weird feeling of like, what if someone could see me from in here? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like that's
can't
not,
even have privacy in the bathroom.
Exactly. It's not like a feeling that I feel like I deal with anymore. So it's just weird. But I go on so many tangents. But the thing I was thinking about with the energy, like one I can remember that I don't think is ghost related. I think it's more like alien. Honestly, was I was trying to go to sleep. This was like a little past midnight, and like at this point everybody else in my house was asleep. Like I remember that much. And I hear like a plane pass overhead, and like like again I go back to like talking about rationality. Like I hear we hear planes pass all the time. Like it's not something I'm paying attention to. However, explain to me why I would feel this feeling of fear out of the blue then for this situation. Why am I paying attention to it this time more than normal? Mm-hmm. Well, the situation that happened was I'm laying there, I'm not like focusing on it, but like a plane passes over and like it gets to like it starts off small, gets to its peak and then keeps going and fades out, right? Well, it sounded like, same thing. It got to its peak, but then it stayed at its peak for like 5 minutes. And I'm sitting there like at first I'm like not paying attention to it, but then all of a sudden my mind like for whatever reason alerts me to like, hey, it's been like a minute now at least at this point. There's no freaking way this plane's still up there. And then I immediately started thinking about the possibility of like, well, like if it's a plane, like it couldn't be just stagnant over the house. Mm-hmm. And it was loud. Like I was like, is it like loud enough for like other people to like wake up? And I will say, like, it didn't sound like any like futurist. It wasn't like whoa or anything like that. Like that would give it away. It was just like, imagine a plane when it passes like shh, but like it gets to the highest point and doesn't come down. And I got this fear. Like I like went from like not even trying to rationalize it. I went from like trying to sleep to suddenly being aware and getting really scared. And I remember I was so scared, I didn't want to get out of bed and check out the window. I in fact laid in bed and slowly, I was like paralyzed. I like slowly covered myself fully. And like, you know, at this point I was old enough that like, you know, I wasn't having like nightmares like that where I'm having to hide because I feel like that's going to protect me. But I did it because I was scared that if something came inside the house,
it would be aware that you heard it and like.
And not just that, I don't want it to know that I'm awake, because like, you know, my first thought was, you know, if it is aliens, I've seen and read things about like the fact that some will latch itself, like follow you, if it's like finds you interesting. And
Hell
like,
no.
I definitely don't want that. And it's not even necessarily in a good way. Like it's like, you know,
like potentially abduct you type of
like
latching.
interesting in the regard of like wanting to study you and whatnot. And
That's my biggest fear.
yeah,
Heck no.
me too. Yeah, like see, that's one thing I want to say is like I'm more scared of something like aliens than I am spirits, because I believe I have enough faith to where war, you know, and for the most part, any of the things I've witnessed haven't like tried to harm me or scare me in a way, like aside from like maybe jumping, but like not like visually I can't see them.
Yeah.
But and as long as I'm not harmed, there's no reason to worry. Plus like at least like, you know, being like religious, like I think I have like that's the weapon, you know. Guns aren't gonna work on ghosts, but you know,
America.
yeah, but if it's aliens, dude, like I don't even know, like what do you do? That's like a real physical creature that's you know, coming after you. Yeah. So it's like that's actually scary. And well, you know, my mind went there right away, and you know, I was hiding underneath the covers for some time, just really trying to listen to see if I hear any like weird, like any like opening doors or anything. I would have screamed. But suddenly it like passes, like it finally fades away.
Would you like to say something, Moose? Wow, I agree.
Well, so I you know, I hear it finally fade away. You know, I don't think we would be paying attention to it, you know, if it just like passed overhead, but like because it lingered, you know, it triggered this feeling, you know, this like weird like gut feeling, right? And I feel like you could, like, I think it's instinctual because you ever like looked at a person and you feel like you got like a bad vibe from them, like you can feel that they're like malicious or something, like that they're a bad person. Not like, you know, I don't want to say bad person because you can't judge a person without knowing them, but some people you can just see and it almost feels like they are up to no good or like bad intentions, right?
Yeah, like everybody has a vibe that they carry.
Exactly. So you know, I think like we could sense these things, you know. On my mom's side, my grandma from her side like kind of came from like a native background in Venezuela, and like you know, she believed because of like her experiences they had mediums in their family. The mediums were like it was like every other generation's in the female side, like the woman. In my mom's generation, it was her elder sister that could see things. It's like, man, like good things happening on the women's side, because I don't want to see any of these things. But and I think my sister has it, you know, really young, was like seeing these things, like going back to the story about the or well, I'm not sure, I don't think I actually got to it yet. Yeah,
I think you were starting. You said that once your sister was born, things started picking up.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, you know, my mom, I don't know, like, I think it's like a, maybe a general Hispanic culture thing, but it might just have been, like, my mom because of, like, her, like, the native stuff, but she had these little necklaces that we all had when we were younger with this little black stone. It was, like, in the middle, and, she would tell us to wear it to protect us from, like...
Just malicious stuff.
Yeah, like, she called them mal de ojos, but, like, she's talking about, like, not only someone cursing you, like, not only someone, like, looking at you and being negative towards you, like thinking something negative about you, but also because especially like, you know, in, well, at least in a Catholic sense, like when you're born, you get baptized. You know, even if you don't believe, we're in a Baptist sense, you get baptized when you believe. You know, we were baptized as kids, but you know, when my sister was born, we didn't go and baptize her right away, and because by this point I think we were Baptists. My sister, I noticed before she got that necklace, like I feel like was experiencing more things than normal, and well, than normal that for her. You know, my mom thinks that like if you don't have like at least that for protection, you're exposed to like spirits too. And being a baby or like a kid that's like innocent and super easily malleable also exposes you to the risk of some like because like in a biblical sense, demons just as angels have a hierarchy. There's like levels to them, right? You know, something that's stronger, you know, could like come in and take over, possess. And so as a kid, you're vulnerable. Like spirits and stuff are attracted to people who are mediums because they can like communicate and be like through them. They can be seen. It's different when like a normal child draws like a little ghost or like draws like little weird monsters, and it's something else when your sister draws them and she says, "Oh, I saw this thing last night. It looked like this." You know what I mean? And so like she was always having nightmares and always seeing these different entities. Like they never looked the same. Like earlier we were talking about it, and she told me that it looked like she had seen one that like almost looked like it was like transparent. Like you could tell something was there, but it was like invisible. But it had like a really long head. Like it was more or less like a normal person, but it had a really long head with like sharp teeth and like no necessarily like recognizable eyes or nose. And like she said like the first time she saw it, and she thinks like some of these things follow, because she said the first time she saw it was at the old house, but then like she said it was like right in front of her, and you know, it was like snarling, but like she didn't react right away. She like, you know, like she was like, am I seeing things? And then like it backed off when she like scratched her eyes, and then like disappeared, almost as if it was like trying to scare her to like mess around, but it didn't work, so it gave up. And then she said she saw it again later, like in the new house, like where we were at now, like walk and then like disappear out the backyard. And then she hasn't seen it since then. Her early stuff, like, you know, it was like stuff like this, like 3-year-old girl doesn't know the concept of horror, telling me these things is creepy, because it's like, you know, for example, one time she said, hey, who was this frizzy haired lady that was standing by the window on the other side of dad, like on the dad side of the bed last night? And she was like laughing like it was like funny, and I was like, what? Because you're like,
excuse me?
Yeah, like it's like we weren't talking about any ghost stuff or like any movies. Like this is a 3-year-old girl that still sleeps in a crib that like doesn't know like really like that was like a ghost or something. Yeah. And like she's telling me this like literally like the movies. It was like the violin, because I'm sitting there like and like me and my mom, like we're all looking at each other. And so like we, you know, and then like later there's a lot more stuff happening at this point, like just random stuff, like the ones that I told you. It was like almost every other day, doors open, lights on, or like and at this time, like around the time we, like my sister was born, we had gotten a dog. Actually, I was telling you about Chico earlier. Well, I remember like the first week that we had gotten him, he was like would be barking like late at night. Like we'd have to like go and tell him like to like be quiet and go to sleep, because he was like barking. And one day he like got out and like went up to like upstairs and checked in everybody's room, like he was trying to make sure we were okay. And I'm just like wondering like what he would see, you know. And you know, at some point he kind of stopped barking. Maybe he realized like I don't know, like it's just nothing's gonna happen, or nothing's gonna like be, you know, I don't know. The thing is, like, the girl I told you about earlier, the little girl with the red ribbon and stuff, like, what's crazy is that, like, not necessarily in the same clothes, but everybody in the house had talked about, like, either seeing like my sister had personally seen a little girl, and sometimes my brother would hear a little girl's laughter in the hallways. And uh, for me personally, I didn't like ever see or hear anything, thank God. But I had that dream, right? And it's just like it's very strange that we would all have a dream about a little girl that we can't necessarily make out.
And if I'm not wrong, I do remember you mentioning that you weren't aware that your siblings were experiencing all this until like it came up, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, you know what? That's right. Yeah, I guess I just kind of like what my mom said early on. Like, I guess I just kind of took that, like, literally just like thought like, maybe that was weird, but I don't know. Maybe it wasn't anything. And like, I think for the most part, my brother did the same, but we both would just be like, that was weird, and just like act like nothing. You know, there it came to this moment. It was literally like a horror movie moment where, like, you know, at this point we're about to be where it was like 2008, and we had been like a recession, and like we're losing the house at this point. And you know, I remember our parents like sitting us down, like little family meeting, and being like, okay, like, because like, you know, we were like sad that we were losing the house, obviously, and they were like, it's a good thing we're losing the house because, and then they start explaining that like they think there was like weird stuff going on. And I was like, wait, you mean like the weird stuff you told us not to worry about? And like she was like, you know, they both started telling me like the stuff that they had witnessed or seen. And like to the point that we ended up having our pastor come to like cleanse the house. And it was like that horror movie moment like I told you about my mom and like the native stuff. Like she like would try to like she had like a like some sort of kind of like burning sage, basically. Like we went into like she sent my brother into the attic. He's like, I don't want to go up in there. And we went to every room, every like nook and cranny, and like did a thing, like you know, had this like heart to heart about the fact that we all have witnessed stuff. But what's scary is that on my mom and dad's side, they like started telling us about their stuff, and they experienced like actual harm, like it was starting to get like more active to the point where it was becoming harmful. And that's like a point where it's like that's where it starts becoming kind of unlivable. My mom told me that she was sleeping and she felt like she like was having a bad dream, and at the same time, like, you know, she felt like someone was like pulling on her, but then she woke up and she felt the like actual pain of someone pulling on her thumb like past the point. And then my dad had a dream. Like she said, well, going back to my mom, she said that she like remembered trying to shake it, and like she woke up because it wasn't stopping when she was trying to shake it off. Yeah. And then my dad, he woke up once because he felt like he was being constricted, like if something was sitting on his chest. And, you know, interestingly enough, my sister, you know, had said she used to get out of the crib in the middle of the night to sleep in the middle of my mom and dad. And she said she woke up one night and like looked over at my dad, and whatever this thing with the frizzy hair that was standing by the window, like had like an obsession with my dad. Like both times, like the first time she saw her was over on his side of the bed, like a silhouette on the at the window. But this time she's saying that she saw it on my dad, like on the knees, you know, like it was like on his like stomach, right? And I'm wondering if that's the same situation. But
most likely.
Yeah. So you know, it started getting a little bit more intense in that regard. You know, fortunately, like none of us as like the children were ever really like, you know, scared. Yeah, but like, you know, I think my sister got the bad parts in terms of like being scared by spirits that like were intentionally trying to scare, because my mom would say that some of them would scare just to like mess around, like, and for the most part they're not malicious, you know, or well, they might be bad, but you know, some of them are just like, you know, they just do things, I don't know, just to like get a reaction, I guess.
Yeah.
But you know, truly evil spirits, like that can really like hurt you or are really bad, they could get you this thing called a ghost fever, you know. And it's funny because I don't know why this was at my school. I remember when I was in elementary school, there was this Spanish and English book called Ghost Fever in the
What the heck?
this like sounds like the Slender Man. Like,
Yeah.
I remember seeing this in I was in elementary, and I was like, why is this here? Like, literally the cover, like, look up the book. I don't remember who it was by.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, but the it was called Ghost Fever, and like the picture on the front was like this like it looked almost like a skeletal thing with like a crooked neck, and I was like, why? Like, how is this in a like elementary school? But I was so like interested in it that I checked it out and like read it and stuff, and it was based like I don't know if it was based on a real story, but it was like basically about this like evil spirit that this girl saw, and it gave her. It wasn't like a documentary. It was like a book. It was just a read, But my mom was telling me the story about our grandma or my grandma. And in Venezuela, at least, I don't know what it's like there where she's living now, but at the time, my mom said that they had to like go outside at night a lot of times to use the like an outhouse, right? And she didn't, grandma wasn't going out to go use the bathroom this night, but she went out because, by the way, I should mention they lived on like super rural like property, like
We're such a bunch of land
exactly.
open.
Like they had a farm and there was like a tree line in the distance, and basically she goes outside because she hears these dogs barking like frantically, and all the animals like are making a ton of noises, and she goes outside and the horses that they had were literally trying to run out of the stables, and then the dogs, like, they're barking and they have their ears straight up and they're all looking in the same direction. And so she looks and they're looking at the tree line, and she's looking out there to try to see what they're seeing, and she sees something running past that's like really like pale, like colored, and then all of a sudden it beelines straight towards her, like it turns and it hits like a football play. It's like whoosh, and starts coming at her, and she says like as soon as it like she like is trying to still focus, like she's not aware that it's coming yet.
This was nighttime too, right?
Yeah, so it's still kind of hard for her to see, but then it got close enough that she was able to make out that it looked like a human, like bald, naked, pale human running on all fours like an animal with red eyes and a long tongue dangling like a dog, when the dog is running. And it had 2 little stumps on its head, like 2 bumps. Not necessarily like straight up horns, but like, noticeably like things on its forehead. And it was running at her like full speed, like faster than any animal she's seen. And she got, once she noticed what was going on, she ran inside just barely. She had some guests there. They closed the door. And as soon as like that happened, she fell with this like fever that lasted like a whole, like, I can't remember how long. It was at least a few days, but it was like,
That's crazy.
yeah, and it was induced by experiencing this like malicious entity. You're like experiencing inhuman like degrees of like fever.
Yeah.
Like they're like way hotter than you should actually be able to survive. And
I watch a podcast, and a lot of the times most of these events are in Mexico. And they always talk about how they get sick after experiencing something really crazy, and most of the time they have to go to somebody to take that off of them, or like they do the whole egg thing, because that's an actual thing.
So it's like, so she's told us, like, honestly, my grandma's stories are crazy, because she, I think, could see them. Like, out of her and her sister, she was the one that said, I think I said every other generation, but I think every generation, one of the females, like, there could be 2, like, my mom can't see them, but her sister could, and her mom could, and then my sister can, but her mom had, like, she had seen so much, like, so many things, like, just like some of the stuff, even she didn't have like a great mom, and like even at one point had seen her like it was like a bull, but like it had her head, like her mom's head, and it was like, it was just like crazy stories. I'm just like, man, like I would not want to experience that. And you know, to the point where she's having to profess her faith in God to have it like vanish, you know. But she was a tough lady. Like, she would not like you know, budge. Like, she had seen so much stuff that she would literally tell them, like, she'd be like, get out of my house, like, you don't belong here. Yeah, you know. Me, on the other hand, I'd be like, the power of Lord. You know.
Yeah.
We had just always experienced these things, and you know, my brother and my mom and dad and me and everybody was just sharing the things that they had experienced, or agreeing on things. Yeah. We go and leave that house and we go to the new house. Like, at first, this house didn't have, like, it felt like, honestly, compared to like the feelings, the vibes I got from the other one, I was like, you know, there's nothing like this. This feels great. And I think, honestly, it was like, I feel like legitimately there was nothing wrong with it. But I think, you know, maybe because my sister's a medium, or maybe because, like, you know, I think sometimes my dad was a person that, like, carried a lot of negative energy on him, and bad things are attracted to that. And so, yeah, because he was always, like, grumpy and stuff, and then, you know, and I feel like it was just, you know, there was a lot of things that he would maybe bring home from the workplace or whatever, just like a lot of, like, you know, this stuff. And you know, I think maybe that attracts things, but I think some of these things do follow. You know, at this new house, I remember, you know, it didn't take very long. Well, it was a good about time, like a few years at least, and then my sister started seeing, well, both, actually, every one of us. I remember, and at this point, like, I'm closer to, like, my age now, like, I'm a full-on adult, so it's, like, even weirder, because I remember one time my brother was in my room playing a video game on my computer, because I had left, and I told him there was this game that we both wanted to play, but he didn't have anything to play it on at the time. So I said, hey, I finished the game. I was like, you could play this game on my computer. And so he was doing that. So when I come back, he's not in my room, and I'm like, hey, what happened? And he's like, something weird happened, and it just, like, made me not want to play. Like, and I was like, what happened? And he was like, dude, like, someone came. He said he felt someone touch his shoulder. It wasn't like an aggressive touch. It was just like someone, like, put their hand on his shoulder, like, to get his attention. And so he turned around thinking it was, like, my sister or something, or my mom, and there was nobody. And he was like, the thing that was creepy about it is that, like, he didn't hear any footsteps or anything, and there's no way, like, from coming into my room to, like, where my desk is, like, is at least, like, you know, a few steps. And if you were to get out of there fast, you would have to, like, run. And, like, you would hear that because I have tile flooring. Yeah. So the fact that, like, nobody was there, you know, my brother, like, immediately, like, it was literally like he was playing the game and he, like, lost interest, like, took off the headphones and went, like, even to the point where when I came back, like, my computer was still on, like, the main screen. Like it was, like, not, he didn't even, like, close it down. Like, he was spooked enough to, like, go back to his room and just, like, exactly. And I felt uncomfortable because, like, I never experienced anything like that, but I didn't like that it happened in my room because I'm like, bro, I sleep here. And then both my brother and sister would have still dreams with hearing, or not even dreams. My brother one time told me he, like, woke up in the middle of the night because he like heard, like, a little girl playing in the halls and laughing and stuff, like the same little girl from the last time. And my brother and sister also shared dreams sometimes. Like, they both, like, experienced, my brother's not sure if it was a dream or if it, like, really happened. And, like, he said he was, like, sleeping and he woke up because he heard banging on the door, like, ba 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 ba, like, repeated. Like, he even asked us the next day if we heard anything when we like, at night, and I was like, no, I didn't hear anything, because he was like, there was, like, this insane banging on my door, and, you know, that made him scared. And then, like, when he turned around, he was, like, cowering and like, underneath the bed trying to, like, avoid it, and he, like, heard it come inside his room and whisper, do you want to, in, like, a raspy voice. And he was like, do you want to what? Like, he was just thinking in his head. And like he said, like, after a while he got the courage to turn around and see, like, to look and see if, like, the room was clear, and there was nothing in there, and the door was closed. And he was like, Yeah, and so he was like, he wasn't sure if it was like a dream or something because like nobody else heard the banging. But then, interestingly enough, sometime later, or actually, I think my sister had this dream, but she didn't say anything until my brother had told that story that she had earlier on experienced a dream with a similar lady that asked the same thing. My brother mostly because he was on that side by the backyard, but he would wake up a lot in the middle of the night because our dog Chico would be barking like frantically, like he was seeing something, and my brother like felt alarmed and like would grab a weapon and go outside, and like Chico would be like fine, but he would be looking around like he would be looking up at like a tree, and so my brother would be like looking around but would never see anything. One day I woke up and heard the same thing. Me and my brother came out with like bats, and I was like scared because I would also hear at night over my room, still do actually, crawling on the top of the roof, like, but it's like, what animal is heavy enough to be making that sound? Because it sounded like kind of like the master creaks I was talking about. I can feel like stepping up there, like if someone's like crawling.
Yeah, like that ain't no raccoon.
Right, and it's just like, what animal would even be active at night like this, you know, like in this area, right? That's that big, you know, because I've seen like possums and stuff, but like I don't think it'd be making that sound. So that was like weird. And one time me and my brother woke up because we heard all the dogs in like the neighborhood like nearby like barking, almost like when you would hear a siren, like you hear all these dogs like yelping like about something. It's just like all of the dogs at the same exact time.
It's a creepy,
right?
Like I've been in that where like all the dogs out of nowhere start barking. It's just like, what's going on? Like it's for a reason.
And it's like late at night too, so it's like, is there something like in the sky? Like, is there an alien? Like, what is going on? Yeah. I was playing on my computer late at night, and my mom, you know, she's going to sleep, and suddenly she comes back to my room after saying goodnight, and she's like, very funny. And I'm like, I take off my headphones, I'm like, what? And she's like, you didn't go and like slam the door just now to the master to scare me or whatever? And I was like, no. I was like, I swear to God, Mom, I've been sitting right here. I was like, I couldn't even have gone up that fast. And I was like, I didn't hear any door slam. And I was like, the master like door, like I'm not that far from the master, like literally it's an L in the hallway. I could see the face change on her when she like realized that I'm being serious, and she like is obviously spooked. This was like right at midnight. It was like a little after midnight, maybe like 11:59 or like, you know, 12:01, 12:02 that she's telling me like that this happened. And it was like, I had just talked to her, like literally I like walked back into my room right before that, like right before she went to the master. I could see that she was spooked, and when she was like, oh well, good night, and went to her room, like I felt so unsettled, I stopped playing for the night and went to sleep too. Like for whatever reason, I had this like feeling that when weird stuff like this happens, I should just go like reset the day, like go to sleep and just like move past it. Yeah, no, I agree. My mom had she had a superstition. She believed, I say superstition, well, she had some weird ones. Like she would tell me not to play with my shadows and not to like look at the mirror for too long because like, I don't know, like she told me like a story of she had of like looking at, like she was like got like lost in a trance looking at herself in the mirror and felt like she was getting pulled in, and like realized like it felt like her reflection was trying to pull her inside. And so she like from that day forward was like scarred from that day, that she would literally close the close any door if it had like a reflection, like if there was mirror, she would like close the door to like not let anything like be there. And I remember really vaguely like back in like apartments, like this was before the house, I was like playing with my shadows on a rainy day, and I remember like seeing the shadow like not move a way I did, and I was like, what? And I like started, like I was scared because I was a little kid, and like my mom was like, I told you not to do that, and I was like, what the heck though, like
I was just playing.
Yeah, like what just happened? And to this day I'm like, you know, I like keep those things in mind. Like if I like stare at like my reflection too long, like I even try not to make eye contact with myself. I don't know, it's weird. But going forward to the most recent thing that's happened to me was this time I went to church, because I played the drums at like the churches I go to, I was sitting in the foyer. This old lady walks up to the door of the church and like knocks, and she's alone, like no car, no family. Like old lady just walked up to the church and knocked, and the lady who like greets people or lets people in like went and opened the door and was holding the door, like standing at the door holding it, and the lady didn't come in, and the lady looked like confused, like, why aren't you coming in? And then she said, the old lady says, hey, can I come in? Or essentially along the lines, I don't remember if she said it exactly like that, but she asked for permission to enter the church, which is like in itself weird. Like no normal person does that. I mean,
Very unusual.
it's a public space. I think anybody who's human knows that, you know?
Yeah.
But like right off the bat, even just when she was standing outside, like she caught my eye because there was something off about her. It felt like what we were talking about, like people trying to mimic. So she goes, and the lady said she could come in, so she comes in and sits down. But like then she's just sitting down and just like looking at everybody and like has like this weird smile on her face. And then she looks at me, and I feel like at this point, like she can sense that I know something is weird about her. And she continues looking at me. Like every time I try to look at her, I could tell she was already looking at me. And I just like ignore it. But she tells the lady before she comes inside, she says, so right before she sat down and like started looking at everybody, she said she's new to town and just moved in and wanted to like come to like the local church. But like she walked here, no family, old elderly lady, right?
She was scoping out for victims.
Right. Well, that's, what we say about like we were talking about the churches, like, the church itself is not the safe place. It's the people. It's the faith. But the church is very susceptible because the like people, there's sometimes non-believers or people that are struggling, and that's like where they pray. They'll pray on the weak. I kind of like ignore it, but then all of a sudden my mom leans over and she's like, "Hey, you see that old lady over there?" I was like, yeah. And she was like, "Did you get like a weird vibe from her?" And I was like, yeah, I did. Like, what? And she was like, "Yeah, something's not right about her." And I was like, "Yeah, dude, like I felt it too." And like, something about when your parent validates your feeling that makes it like even scarier. Yeah. And so at this point, me and my mom are like kind of like looking at our back, and when you could feel like someone's staring at you. Like we sit, and like she sits right behind us. It's like she knows that we know that she's not like a normal person. Every time I looked at her, again, smiling and looking at me, and I felt like, she wasn't like directly behind, but she was like only a few behind, like enough that we could like see her. After that, like never saw her again. But like, it makes me think about the fact that, here's one, for example. My mom, my grandma, she would tell my mom that she would rather sleep at a cemetery than at a church overnight. And the reason is because at a cemetery, all the spirits are like resting. Like that's like, not really probably. She used to work night shift over there. But at a church, there's like a lot of activity. Sometimes they'll like go in amongst us in the same way that I think angels can be disguised as people and affect your life. I think demonic entities can also do the same thing. Like I think they can disguise themselves and, just be amongst us, which is really scary to think about. Like the fact that like whatever reason she was there was malicious and just like observing people is scary. Interestingly enough, just before that happened, some lady at another church, like my actual home church, there was a lady in one of our groups that was talking about this time she had experienced something that scared her, and she never came back to that church. There was like this lady that was doing a cynical smile like that, and like during the worship she was like standing beside her and her eyes were rolled all the way back, and she was just saying hallelujah, and then she looked at the lady and smiled. Me, like, as soon as that lady, like, knocked, I was like, that's weird, like, what is that? And then she asked for permission to come in. I was like, this is, like, textbook vampires. Like, what are you doing? Even though my sister has, like, the ability to see, I think we still kind of lean closer to like being able to at least presence. Like we're able to, like me and my mom were right on the sense like about it being off.
Did you want to go into the photo?
Oh, right, the photo. So I don't think I was there that day, but my mom had told me that she, just took a picture of my sister because she thought she looked cute. The reason we even know about this was because here actually at the new house, so this was like revisiting like years later, my mom like had the scrapbook and she was like looking at it, a little tearful eye, just looking at like the years. And then all of a sudden, and I'm sitting there because we were talking and she was like, hey, what does this look like to you? And she made that same like weird face like when she was weirded out by the door slam. And so I already know something's up. And she comes and shows me the picture and she's like, hey, like, do you see anything like out of the ordinary there? And like right on the money, like, yeah, like it was like a Polaroid type picture. And I know that like these pictures can like warp or like burns can happen over time, but like this was just so specific. I can't believe that's what it was. She hands me this picture and I see the silhouette in the back of this couch. And it's just so funny too because like the picture itself is like almost like designed in a way that like, like they would in a horror movie. Like my sister's like in the frontmost like left side of the picture smiling, and then like she was like sitting on like one of the, or I guess what would have been the left side arm of the couch, like that, and then on the back side, on the other side, like at the end of the picture, it's already dark. So this is how I'm saying, like, I don't think it's just like a burn or something, because the picture already looks dark in the background, but there's like a silhouette that's even darker, especially when you've kind of dealt with, like, you had experienced that, like, where, this is something that she had described before. It makes you wonder if that's the entity that we can actually see it. Mm-hmm. And that wasn't there when we initially took the picture, which makes it creepier, because it's like we're revisiting this picture in the scrapbook and we're coming across this and it's just like, what the heck is this? It was so weird that I took a picture on my phone because I couldn't believe it. Mm-hmm. So it's like, yeah, I don't know, but it seems a little, too like specific to be just like some random bird. Like it looks like a silhouette, but it's also so blurry, for the most part it just looks like a black silhouette with no recognizable features.
I was gonna ask, do you, like, as from what you've been telling me, you're like, I know I experienced all these things, but I'm good, like I don't want to go into it any further because I don't want to see anything more. But would you ever be interested if somebody came up to you, hey, like, I can tell you exactly who it is and what it is? Would you ever be interested in knowing like exactly how many spirits and who it is? Or are you like, nah, I'm good?
I don't know. Like, I feel like I would want to know. Like, I'd be interested. I'd be curious. But I feel like it would be really scary to know. Like, what if they said there's like, well, I think kind of like that mother validation thing. Like, it's like if like someone was like what if I say, oh, I have this, and they look into it and they're like, oh my god, this is like a really bad entity, like you need to get rid of this. That would scare the living crap out of me. I'd be like, what? Yeah. Like, what do you mean? Like, they're like, what is like the movies where they're like, oh my gosh, that's a blah blah blah, like they read out like a certain kind of name and they have a book about it.
They're like in Phasmophobia.
Yeah, exactly. And then yeah, literally. And then you go and actually talking about Phasmophobia, they're like, yeah, that's a wraith, that's really bad, you need to get out of there. And it's just like, what? Like, this is just following me, like, and it's just like, it makes you wonder too. It's like, why are they following me? Yeah.
Anyways, thank you so much for telling all your stories and being here. And I know you probably have many more that will come to you later. Yeah. But again, thank you so much. We're both really interested in this topic, so it's always fun to talk and hear about it. But yeah, cool. Thank you so much again.